Tuesday night, President Trump delivered the first broadcast address of his second term to Congress. Though his remarks on the Middle East were sparing and largely expected, U.S. policy in the region has been anything but. Trump's pronouncements on Gaza have sent especially powerful shockwaves throughout the Middle East, and hints of a new approach to Iran have also elicited attention. I'm here with Jon Alterman, director of the CSIS Middle East Program, to discuss the state of U.S. Middle East policy and its possible future trajectories. What Middle East issues has the Trump administration prioritized thus far?
You've seen the most movement on Gaza, both in terms of ensuring that more hostages were released, but also the president talking about a new initiative for Gaza, which would involve potentially depopulating Gaza. I think what the president's done is he's widened the aperture of what people might consider a solution. I think in many ways he's created a discussion of a wide variety of alternatives, including the Arab proposal, which the White House has dismissed, as well as the Israelis. But there's a discussion about the future of Gaza that wasn't there 6 weeks ago. How close we are to accomplishing agreement, I think we're very far, but there's certainly a much more robust discussion and a much more diverse discussion than we had just a few weeks ago.
So how unified is the Trump administration in its thinking about the Middle East?
In many ways, the only policy that matters is what the president says, and what the president says can change. It can change quickly. Sometimes it's not premeditated. But I think one of the things that we've seen, not only in Middle East policy, but broadly, is that this is an administration that doesn't build proposals up through institutions. It doesn't try to stress test things through a bureaucratic system. It has the president saying things and the president with an instinct to negotiate. And we're seeing, I think, the president creating negotiating space, and then he'll have people he trusts, particularly Steve Witkoff, pursue some sort of agreement on those terms. And the people I've spoken to who've spoken to Steve Witkoff are impressed at him as a negotiator. But in terms of the government having an agreed endpoint and then a set of institutional processes that lead to the endpoint, which is the traditional way the government has made policy in the Middle East, that's simply not the way policy is being made in the Trump administration.
What sort of things could cause the administration to change the direction of U.S. policy in the region?
As I say, if you don't have desired endpoints, then it's hard to say what the policy in the region is. There's certainly not a strategy toward the region. We see an openness to rethinking what desired endpoints might be on Gaza. We certainly have seen an openness to have discussions with the Iranians. We've certainly seen an openness to explore different relationships with the Saudis. What the desired endpoints are, how they fit together, how they complement each other. I don't think the administration has done that. I'm not sure the administration will do it. The president believes that he can bring people to agreement in ways that advance U.S. interests. But in terms of having an overall strategy that the U.S. is trying to advance, or even in terms of having a policy toward any specific issue, it seems to me that every policy the president puts forward is a policy that's first put forward tentatively, and second, put forward in such a way that it can be withdrawn or reoriented very quickly because the president decides there's another negotiation, there's another option to pursue.
How effectively did Middle Eastern leaders prepare themselves to work with a second-term Trump administration?
In many ways, they are used to transactional relationships, and they're, I think, accommodating to the idea you have a president who wants to be more transactional. I think for some governments in the Middle East, having a president who's not going to try to hold moral superiority over the region and try to push them to democratize and liberalize societies is a bit of a relief. But there's also, at the same time, a concern that the president may adopt policies that they find challenging to their own domestic security, whether it's a policy on Gaza, whether it's a policy toward Iran, a nuclear deal and an agreement with Iran that they may see not meeting all of their needs. I think that's a reality as well. Ultimately, when I've spoken to leaders in the Middle East, they have long absorbed the idea that they don't get to choose the president of the United States. They have to deal with whoever the American public chooses, and they will deal with whoever the American public chooses. I don't think they really have preferences. I think they are always looking to have a good relationship with the United States. I think increasingly they've been looking to have additional relationships to support the relationship, but also to hedge against a different American policy. I suspect that's what you're going to see more of is tactical accommodations to the Trump administration and a strategic desire to have a diverse set of relationships in case the United States veers off in one direction or another sharply in a way that's otherwise hard for them to react to.
Thank you very much, Jon.
Thank you, Asher.